On this week's show, we're discussing the death of Wonder Woman as WB closes Monolith Studios and more. Pokemon Presents brought some new Pokemon stuff and a look at ZA, whatever it's called. Fable gets delayed, but Forza does get dated for PlayStation 5. And gamers go wild for Monster Hunter Wilds. All that and much, much more on this week's GamerGuild Podcast. Good game, everyone, and welcome back to your weekly show, the GamerGuild Podcast, where we get together and round up all of the week's video game news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV and available up there in the digital clouds on your podcast platform of choice. Just search for the GamerGuild Podcast or GamerGuild TV and you'll find us every day. Well, it will be there every day, technically, but it goes live every Monday, 8 a.m. here on YouTube and available on those platforms. We do have a great show lined up for you all, but before we get into all that, your podcast players for the week are myself, Chris, at Arcane Rogue, and the man of many pixels, at RichieC89. Welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone.
Hello indeed, and as I said, we do have a great show lined up for everyone, lots to talk about, but before we get into all that, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and ring-a-ding-ding that bell, so you are kept in the loop with all the great content we do here at GamerGuild TV, like this very show, like our weekly live streams, like some retro first looks, look-backs, everything in between. Richie, we have a merch store. I want to get ahead of this one. There is a 15% discount coming on everything in the merch store, and it starts on the 6th of March, running through to the 11th. Now, we've been really bad in the past at getting merch information out to our audience, but it's there. We're in spring now, folks, almost officially. Winter's clinging on, but it's almost gone. So get your hands on a fresh T-shirt, maybe some running T-shirts as well if you're into your exercise, or maybe you're just cold all year round like my wife and you want a nice thick jumper to keep you warm and ticking over, or a mug, classic, retro, or current. Aside from that, we did a live stream this week. We always do a live stream here, usually a Thursday or a Friday. Check out the channel for that type of content. We are continuing our playthrough of The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. We're about 10-12 hours deep right now with Ellie and the Scars, or the Seraphites, as they're better known as well, on the cusp of the launch of Season 2 of HBO's The Last of Us, which is coming April, so not too far, just a couple of weeks out now. We'll be covering, of course, right here on the channel with our ClickerCast podcast, so more content in the pipeline coming down, and it's all there, going to be waiting for you. Of course, we did play some of the games through the week, Richie, and we always like to start the show off with what we've been playing, so I'll hand it over to you. What are you twiddling your thumbs with this week?
Right, so I am one battle away from the Platinum of Metaphor. Ooh. And it's a bullshit fight. When the boss gets down to... If you use any of the top-end gear, it has repel fire on it.
Repel.
If you have any repel items on, it wipes your party in one shot.
Okay.
Programmed to wipe. And then, apparently, he also can use that same attack any point after he gets below 60% health. Which I've tried about 8 times. Mm-hmm. I've seen people do it at like level 60 online when I've been looking at guides trying to figure it out. I'm level 89. It's not a level issue. It's a bullshit issue. Like, one shot, wipe the entire party is just terrible. After like 15 minutes of fighting just to have your party wiped.
Yeah, pulls the... It sounds like a Dark Souls game.
And I need it once I beat this as Platinum.
So you're going to be persistent, I take it.
Yeah. I'm just chipping away at it. I'm just play a bit here, play a bit there. But I have been playing more Avowed.
Oh, more Avowed. Do tell. Obviously, we did a first look on the channel just under 2 weeks ago now, and we played about the first 2 hours of it. So how many more have you put into it since, and how are you finding it?
Well, I re-rolled my save, so I started again, but I'm not playing on Xbox. I decided to see how it would work on PC, and you know what? Surprisingly well, considering my graphics card is kind of shitty.
Okay.
So if you're wondering, I've got a Radeon RX 580. Mm-hmm. So it's quite old and not exactly the best ever. I found it on like medium lowish settings across the board. It's running smooth. I would actually support for a 2025 game when the graphics card is more like a 2010 graphics card. Mm-hmm. It's like, I am genuinely surprised that's running this well. It's like running a AAA game on a PS3. that's the kind of equivalent we're talking here.
how are
Obviously,
you
I'm
finding the
turning
game?
sliders down. I'm enjoying it. I've switched over to playing mouse and keyboard because it's just a better way of playing a first-person game, in my opinion.
Oh, so you've still been sticking to first person then?
Yeah. I didn't like it in third person. I thought it had the same problems. That's why I never really liked the Elder Scrolls games in third person. The animations it doesn't feel like you're connecting. It feels a bit janky. It doesn't feel like it's designed to be third person. It feels like it's designed to be first person, but they've also put a bit of third person in there if that's how you prefer.
All right, okay. That's interesting. But you're enjoying it so far?
Yeah, I'm playing as more of a mage.
Okay, wonderful. Well,
Dual wielding ones is fun.
Dual wielding wands. The power to create. I'm also playing Avowed. I
Nice.
jumped into it on the Series S. Made my character. I've just went full on clicker. I just went
Oh,
like
you
the
leaned into
mushroom
it.
head, the mushroom face stuff. I was like, I'm playing the Last of Us at the moment as well, and we've got the show coming up. I was like, you know what, just commit to the bit and just totally cover his face in mushrooms and marks and everything. So yeah, he's got this big rainbow floral clicker explode head. And I can't remember what I picked. I think I just went with the warrior one or something like melee, because again, I don't really play these fantasy games, so it was like I didn't really know what to pick. But I'm utilising a little bit of everything. I've archetype of just sword and bow for now. I've dabbled a little bit in the... I've just reached the point... I'm probably about 4 hours in. So I've got to the port city we got to in the first lock. And I've gone and done a couple more missions beyond that. So I've tapped the first kind of big crystal and had my first big power.
That's where we left off the stream, just before then.
Oh, was it? I thought we got didn't get that far. Oh, maybe we did.
It's after
wait,
the
sorry.
bear
Then,
fight.
sorry. Then I've played beyond that, and I've got to a point where something happens which I didn't expect to happen to a main character in a game, without trying to give it away for our audience.
Yeah, so for your knowledge, that bear fight was the last bit of story I've done. I've done a lot more mooching around than we did in the stream of that side of the map.
Yeah.
But I haven't progressed story. 'Cause my next story beat, I think, is to go to the main city.
Okay.
You know, the one that's just over the river.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Paradise?
That's where I'm at. Yeah, Paradise.
Oh,
yeah.
well, okay, because you've done more exploration, then you might not have experienced said plot.
No, probably not that.
Oh well, so a good thing I didn't spoil it there. So that's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's a nice, colourful world. There's a lot of depth, which I think we found in the first look in terms of the fantasy elements that you're always going to get. Like they're trying to craft a whole new kind of fantasy experience, and there's characters and races and things that like they don't resonate as much because they're not quite elves, dwarfs, men, like the typical ones we would expect. But I do think the more you get into the story, as with any good storytelling game, is they're going to grow on you, and you're going to start to be familiar with locations and how maybe certain races don't get along with other ones, and there's been wars in the past, and it depends how deep you go on the lore and what you're reading when you pick stuff up. So but yeah, it's rich, it's colourful, it's really enjoyable, and so far, you know what, I've enjoyed every moment of what I've played, and I'm keen to play some more. So it's not got its hooks in me fully, but I am enjoying it.
So you never played Skyrim, did you?
No, I think I started it on PS3 maybe ages ago. I borrowed a copy, and then I think there was loads of issues with bugs on the PS3 where your save locked out. So I think I held off on it, and then I just never went back. And it was like, oh well. Similar thing happened to Bioshock 2, which there might have been about the same time.
Yeah. So do you think something like Avowed could get you into maybe trying Skyrim?
I mean, I'm always open to it. Absolutely.
In advance of Elder Scrolls 6.
Quite possibly. It's one of those where I know it's much beloved, and it's just, again, find that time to get round to it, which we say a lot on this show now.
Yeah.
And but the actual game itself, I really enjoyed it. I am playing it predominantly in third person though, which is more in my wheelhouse, of course, but it's not bothering me that much. It's like it's got that. The movement's not as fluid because obviously it's not designed for that. It reminds me of a Dark Souls-esque game where where the movement of the character just is quite rigid and cardboardy, but that's what I'm expecting, because I think everyone kind of puts Obsidian in almost like that AA pushing to AAA barrier where there's a little bit of jank, which I'm happy to forgo.
AAA storytelling with AA presentation sometimes.
And I'm cool with that, and I think the colours and the art style they pick for Avowed actually goes a long way to not mask it, but help make it feel different. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. And in another world, I could be playing Kingdom Come Deliverance right now. In another world, I could be playing more Dynasty Warriors. And yeah, I'm just enjoying the freedom to dabble around. And I'm always down for trying new IPs, which I think a lot of our audience are as well. So there's a lot of people out there in our Discord really, really enjoying Avowed, getting deep into the lore and the story.
Do you think watching me in our first look on Thursday probably helped soften the blow of how, like, the jankiness of how it would look in third person? Because you've already seen it. And so you're not going... Because if you went in blind, expecting, like, a AAA... Because it is a AAA game. Game. Like, and that's how it felt... It could be like because the expectations are already set correctly.
Yeah, possibly not. I wouldn't say necessarily because I'm also very familiar with the industry and these type of titles traditionally come with that. I mean, remember we played Starfield and Bethesda at all its height still put out a game that looks pretty rough around the edges. So, but again, I'm not really like a snob when it comes to that sort of stuff. Like I remember the last year I've gone back and played 5, 6, 7 PS1 classics and stuff and PS2 games, so I'm a little bit desensitized, but yeah, really enjoying it, and I'll keep ticking away until we get some new games, which we do have on the horizon.
True. I do think it's probably going to be Indiana Jones, my next big game. I'm going to save Avowed as a PC game, but I don't do a lot of PC gaming, so it's just going to be chipping away here and there.
That sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
You know what else sounds like a plan, Richie?
What?
Us getting into the
graciously gathered GamerGuild Gazette, aka the news.
The news. And as always, the news is brought to you by our wonderful guild heroes, the fantastic members of the channel who support us that extra little bit further, just like you can. From as little as 99p, you can support me and the boys. That's Richie, Tom, Rob, and myself, as we break down the news, and you get early access to this very show, special videos that go up on occasion, and stickers and badges next to your name in our YouTube live chat. So I do appreciate that. 5 years and counting of content, Richie. 99p, pretty decent.
Yep.
Especially if you're
a
dirty freeloader over on the audio feed still. That's right, I'm talking to you guys still. But in all sincerity, lots of news to talk about. And we want to kickstart things off with story number 1. We had a Pokemon Presents this week, Richie. Which dropped. You and Tom spoke about it on last week's show. A little bit into predictions and such. Overall, thoughts on it? Obviously, you and Tom laid down some predictions. Most of it, which you didn't really see come true.
Yeah, we were quite far off the mark, to be perfectly honest. We were looking into the idea that it was Pokemon's 30th anniversary. Mm-hmm. The next generation should be Generation 10. It all kind of looks like it was lining up for something.
Rightly so.
The Switch 2 launched this year.
Yeah.
So we were looking, right, it's been a few years since Scarlet and Violet. It's time for the next generation. Mm-hmm. After this Pokemon Presents, I think the next generation Pokemon is next win is like 2020, late 2026 now.
Yeah, it was a bit. I watched it as well, and I thought it was just a bit disappointing overall. I was waiting for that like one more thing. I don't know if you saw doing the rounds. People had done like a Pokemon Classics collection mock-up that had been doing the rounds just before the Direct, and it was like a proper Nintendo Switch Online backdrop, you know, like the red, and then it had a little picture of the original Game Boy, a little picture of a Game Boy Advance, and they had the box art that had little imagery almost of all the original Pokemon and like a grid of like 4x8 or something.
Yeah.
It looked legit, and everyone was like, oh, could you imagine like all the classic, like the first classic, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 games released on Switch Online or with a physical copy would have been amazing. And then it was all fake, and I think that kind of like maybe hyped up people psychologically a bit different. But we did have the presents. We got a new trailer. Do you want to take us through some of the updates for you? You're the one playing traded card game Pocket still. You're the one who most likely pick up Are we sitting Zaza? Yeah, if we confirmed what the hell they've done with the naming convention yet?
But it's ZA, I think. That's how you're meant to speak it in English.
And it's coming end of 2025, they said.
Yeah, which I think this is where everyone was thinking this would be quite a bit earlier in the year. Mm-hmm. So to be honest, I was kind of expecting like maybe April, May or something for this. Yeah. So this is why, because it's now end of the year, because that's why I think next generation of Pokemon is 2026 now. Because you're not going to drop 2 games right on top of each other.
No. They've done it before with one of the... not Let's Play. What was the other one they did? The remake of Diamond and Pearl? Was that just called Diamond? Or Shiny? It was Shiny Pearl and some Radiant Diamond or something, wasn't it? They dropped
but they
2
didn't come out. in the same year, but not in the same part of the year.
Oh no, that would be ridiculous.
Yeah, but
I mean,
typically
they already released 2 versions of the same game.
Yeah,
adding another title would be silly.
Yeah, typically Pokemon have released games in November, so I'm thinking Pokemon Legends is going to be November. Take the November slot for this year.
Yeah, and this Legends game has no real connection to Arceus, does it? It's just Legends seemingly is now their like sub-spin-off category of the franchise.
Yeah, and it actually looks quite interesting because we've got to see a bit of the battle system in it, and they're changing it up where like moves seem to be. I think they're using the Legend series to kind of play around a bit with different mechanics and different ways Pokemon battles and stuff can unfold. Well, that which allows them to keep the mainline games pure to the traditional Pokemon experience. So it's things like with Legends Arceus, you could boost or slow down your Pokemon, so you could either hit harder or hit softer and go more frequently. So it wasn't just locked, you go, I go, you go, I go.
Right.
Where this, they seem to be putting some more like area effect attacks in there.
Yeah, they showed off some in the trailer, didn't they, about like your positioning and timing of your moves. You could either block or deflect, and rather than just rolling a dice and hoping that it does or doesn't. It seemed to have add a little bit more character in there.
Yeah, so it feels like it's going to be more action focused. So instead of actually picking from the menu, you've got basically an ability wheel up on screen where you have your four moves set to buttons, probably A, B, X, Y, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And it does look like an interesting take on the Pokemon battle system.
Yeah, it seems interesting. And also another interesting choice I was quite pleasantly surprised at, your starting Pokemon, Chikorita, Tepig, and Totodile making a reappearance. Is this the first time a game's gone back and give you old school starters?
No, well, actually, interesting enough, this game set in Lumiose City, which was in the main city in X and Y. You actually could get the Kanto starters, so Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur.
Oh, right, okay.
Immediately, as soon as you got Lumiose City, you're actually given them.
Right. Okay.
But they weren't your actual starters, but you also got a secondary one.
Yeah.
But Legends Arceus, you got Cyndaquil, which was one of the Generation 2 starters alongside Chikorita and Totodile. And who else did you get? I'm trying to remember. You got two other choices, which my memory is just
lapsing on. You got a
on.
grass type and a water type to complement.
Yeah. But interestingly, Typhlosion in that game, I remember Cyndaquil being it because I had Typhlosion.
Right.
They changed his type, so he was fire and ghost rather than just straight fire. So I think we might see something else in here with your starters having where the final evolution is a slight deviation from the normal.
Right. Well, it does have Mega Evolutions as well in there. So, interesting stuff. We'll no doubt see more through the summer. It's interesting to see how they're going to market this alongside like a Switch 2 as well. Like how they want to... Because Pokemon is inevitably always the massive seller alongside Mario.
It's going to be cross-gen.
Yeah, package it in, bundle it in. There's going to be some things lined up for Christmas season, no doubt.
There was rumoured to be a Pokemon Z in the works back in the day after X and Y. Because, they usually do like, here's your two, and then we're going to do a third one in that generation. There was, but it eventually got canned. So I wonder if a lot of the ideas are going to resurface in this game.
Yeah.
So this is your Pokemon Z, hence the name.
Interesting. So yes, we got that amongst other things. We won't really go into it because I don't think it's that big of a news. But we got updates for Pokemon trading card game Pocket. Which are you still playing?
Yeah.
Still getting your dailies. There's new booster packs that have been announced. I think they're already out now at the time of recording. Ranked matches are going to be added at the end of March, with which adds a little bit more to the competitive battle scene. And Mega Evolutions are coming later in 2025 with some special cards showing off as well. I guess the other big news we got from it was Pokemon Champions was also announced, which is going to be across the Switch family of systems. So they're still not officially saying Switch 2. Plus iOS and Android. It's Pokemon Champions is a brand new game focused solely on Pokemon battles, with the aim of bringing the global audience to be enjoyed by everyone. Not much was shown, but the battle focus does sound similar to the old Pokemon Stadium games, which everyone might remember from the N64. It's going to connect to Pokemon Home 2, which was the replacement for Pokemon Bank, if I'm not mistaken. So you can use everything you've picked up in previous games and Pokemon Go over into other Pokemon works such as Pokemon Champions. What was your take on Champions, Richie? You play Stadium back in the day?
I never really dabbled much with Stadium because it was just purely battle focused and there wasn't much else. I never actually owned it again. I think this is a smart way of doing a new Pokemon Stadium game because I think Pokemon Stadium games are probably a bit bare bones for a AAA release nowadays.
Yeah.
But by doing this, I'm guessing this is going to be free to play.
It's like you have your roster,
Pokemon trading card game.
you fight, end of. Like that's you win your match, you don't, you get points, or you're in some kind of league. I'm like, again, it is legit. The genius of Pokemon is
there'll be
the
stuff
game
in
is
there,
within the show, is within the show, is within the game. Kind of loop is that the arena fights are key to living in that world. So.
There's rumours. I've heard a few people speculate that maybe the proper event, like competitive scene for battles may move over to Pokemon Champions.
Okay.
Rather than being linked to individual generations of the game.
Well, that would make sense with Bank being kind of like the overarching umbrella of it all as
Pokemon
well, because
Home.
then you just keep your roster and I guess build it and practice with it over time like you would a fighting game.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's curious. And again, the mobile iOS thing, no surprise there. The big money really
Smart
is that synergy between everything. We've seen it with the likes of Fortnite and Call of Duty Mobile and stuff. Just if you can get the game in as many hands as possible, are you expecting this to be free to play?
Yes, I think it would make sense for it to be free to play. We have some form of microtransactions in there. I'm not sure what shape or form they would take because we don't really know much about the game, to be perfectly honest. But with it being iOS and mobile, I think it needs to be free to play.
Yeah, there's certainly something.
Realistic. It's the difference is if it's 99p, I'm probably not buying it. If it's free, I'm definitely downloading it on my phone to have a go.
Harsh cut off there, 99p.
Well, it is, but that's the thing that's how the reality of mobile apps. So
that's true. It's the race to the bottom.
Yeah.
Moving on to our next story, though, Richie, away from some Pokemon news, we do have some news from the bottom, unfortunately, and that is this week we found out about some WB Games news. They're making big cuts, closing 3 studios, including Monolith Productions, Player First Games, and WB Games San Diego, cancelling long-running projects such as DC Wonder Woman and other internal things as the studios have shut down. I was not happy with this news as it kicked off this week, for multiple reasons. Digging deeper into the news, because there is actually, once you start scraping back the layers, there's actually a lot more to this story than first assumed. But yeah, that means the company behind Shadow of War, Shadow of Mordor games, other ones in the past, and also the studio who just put out Multiversus. We know Multiversus was announced a couple of weeks back that they're going to shut down the game and stop supporting it. The studio's now gone as well, which is baffling because I'm sure Warner Brothers purchased them not long after the Multiversus launch for about $8 million.
Yeah. Well, Multiversus, when they launched it, actually did quite well initially and then fell off a cliff. Didn't they pull the game for
Yeah, they took it off market and said it was in a beta.
And when they put it back, it was dead. It just never got... And it's a shame. And then, I don't know,
It's baffling. But to read from the context of their statement that they put out, we have, and I quote, "We have to make some very difficult decisions to structure our development studios and investments around building the best games possible with our key franchises. Harry Potter, Mortal Kombat, DC, and Game of Thrones. After careful consideration, we are closing 3 of our development studios, Monolith, Playfest Games, and San Diego. This is a strategic change in direction and not a reflection of these teams or the talent that consists within them. The development of Monolith's Wonder Woman game will not move forward. Our hope is to give players and fans the highest quality experience for the best possible iconic characters, and unfortunately this is no longer possible within our strategic priorities. This is a tough decision, and we recognise Monolith's storied history, 30 years by the way, 30 years this year, and unfortunately this is no longer possible within our strategic priorities. We greatly admire the passion of the 3 teams and thank every employee for their contributions. As difficult as it is today, we remain focused and excited on getting back to producing high-quality games for our passionate fans and develop our world-class studios to getting our games business back to profitability and growth in 2025 and beyond."
I hate this story.
What the really the annoying thing is the passion, the quality, the storied history. And then on the other side, they say we want to remain focused and get back to producing high quality games. It's like maybe not lay off the team you've just praised for putting out high quality games. You
So
idiot.
the too long didn't read for this with Monolith is Monolith, after the Middle-earth games, wanted to do their own IP.
Yep.
WB interfered, pretty much going, no, it has to be an IP one. So they decided to pivot that into Wonder Woman.
Yep.
And then because of things like Suicide Squad and Arkham, whatever it is, the Batman game that flopped, because of that, Monolith is now getting their entire studio shut down.
Yeah. That's the insane thing.
Because of senior management making the obvious wrong decisions.
Yeah.
And I do think in this case, the decision is obvious, really wrong. Suicide Squad, just every time they've tried to do anything with it, it's flopped.
Yeah.
Pretty much universally flopped. So games as a service, every time they try to do anything there, flopped. Stick them together, what you're going to get? You're going to get a flop. Like, it's an obvious thing. And then because of that, now they're not in profit. They're not being profitable. So now they're having to cut in order to reclaim some back. So you cut one of the best developers.
Yeah, it seems like Monolith has fell on the sword because Rocksteady messed up so much. Like, remember, Rocksteady's lost on Suicide Squad. Yes.
To step up, mess up.
200 million was lost on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, not to Rocksteady's fault. This comes down to just poor leadership, I think.
Yes.
To give a bit more depth, though, Jason Schreier, who released this on a Bloomberg article, actually went on Kind of Funny's Gamecast this week and broke down a little bit more. So just to add, again, more context to this. So Monolith, we'll start with Monolith because they are the biggest news story of the whole thing. They're the most story developer. Put out some cracking games over the years. Following Shadow of War's release back in 2017, they weren't interested in making another Lord of the Rings game, which the story did kind of wrap up with that second entry, but I think you, me, Richie, especially the Nemesis system, would have 100% gobbled up more just action-adventure in that world, whether it was with a different character or a different area of Middle-earth. Not that there was something
Shadow
there.
of War was already failed to meet expectations because they were forced to put loot boxes in there.
Yeah, again.
Then they had to backtrack on that.
Another leadership decision. So they began development on an original IP codenamed Legacy using the Nemesis system. After Legacy was cancelled by Warner Bros. In 2021, Monolith's entire leadership team and many of the development members quit. Most of the devs went on to form Cliffhanger Games, which are now with EA, and they're working on the Black Panther game. So there is a little shining beacon of light here that a lot of the quality that went into Shadow of War, Shadow of Mordor, and other games could kind of see a re-emergence, minus the Nemesis system, in the Black Panther game.
The talent pool of the entire studio just up sticks and moves to someone else.
Yeah, and that was because listening to the podcast with Jason, what he goes on to talk about is saying the way WB Games was managed is it almost had a Hollywood culture, where because they were the way the production flow went is it was so similar to the TV shows and the movies, they almost treated games the same way. So the team over at Monolith would go to the WB higher-ups, they'd have a meeting, say like, oh, here's the idea we've got, this is what we want to do, this is kind of where we want to take the studio. And apparently what happens in Hollywood quite a lot is you get almost, Jason referred to it as a Hollywood yes or a Hollywood no, where basically they'll say, oh, I love their ideas. Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Yeah, we'll build on this. We'll get back to you. Like, we'll run with this idea. And then you never hear from them again. And as we know,
mean the cowards.
Yeah, and as we know, games development
don't like the idea.
Doesn't work like that because you need to be doing something. You can't just stop and start production. It's an ever-flowing state of creativity. So apparently they were strung along almost for 3 years saying, yeah, make this new IP, tweak the Nemesis system, like bring us something to the table. And then apparently someone finally higher up at WB went, yeah, you're not going to work on that. And that's, I think, what seemingly pissed off the entire leadership team. They clearly had a passion project. After 2 really successful games, remember, Shadow of War was Game of the Year award-winning, and the Nemesis system was revered industry-wide. To then get all that praise and go like, right, let's make something of our own now. And then work on it for 3 years and then just be told by some people who seemingly don't really understand the industry to go, actually, you know what? Make a Wonder Woman game instead because we've got movies coming out, which then substantially flopped. So apparently, 2021, all them left. And I'm talking all of leadership. I think Jason also put out a post on Blue Sky that basically listed it. And it is everyone, like art director, creative director, like everyone you would expect to have basically the say in development of a game studio, gone. One fell swoop. So like I said, they went and formed Cliffhanger Games, which we don't know anything about the Black Panther game yet, but are one of 2 Black Panther games. But you would imagine they'd also have poached a lot of staff from Monolith.
Yeah.
Like, come work with us.
Best talent.
We're doing this. We've got the Black Panther IP. Come make a great game with us. Get away from the WB shit show. So then Monolith began working on Wonder Woman around May 2021. If you remember, Richie, we then had the reveal of the Wonder Woman trailer a mere 6 months later at the Game Awards. So that trailer that we've seen of kind of Diana just kind of doing a thing with a lasso of truth in the dark, and you see the glisten of her gauntlets and stuff, that's totally just a CGI filler piece to I guess, appease shareholders. People thinking, well, what have Monolith been doing? They haven't done anything for 5-6 years. Like, they must be getting close now.
I watched an interview with Jason Schreier, and he said it's stuff like that. Occasionally, stuff like that is used for recruitment purposes.
Yeah, we're working on a great game.
We're working on a Wonder Woman game. Come join us.
Like, yeah, we made Lord of the Rings Shadow of War game. Like, come. It's that studio. Little did they know, no leadership was there. A lot of the staff have probably left. And this is, I guess, knowing the finer details is why I wanted to get into it on this show. And that was because Monolith, for all intents and purposes now, it's a shell of its former self. Like, on the outside, it's, oh shit, they've shut down an amazing studio. Looking at the internals, there's a lot of the talent.
That studio for years.
Yeah, the talent isn't even there anymore. You'd be better looking towards the next Black Panther game as the spiritual successor, realistically, to the Middle-earth games. So then not only that, is when they started work on Wonder Woman, they had to rebuild their team from the ground up, essentially, get everyone in new positions, get their pipeline in order. Bear in mind, a lot of the team are probably also pissed off and now working on an IP that they might not have wanted to work on. It's just been handed over to them. And then in amongst all that, Richie, the Wonder Woman 1984 movie came out and was shit. And now nobody cares. And then James Gunn's came in and ripped up the whole DC. Is Gal Gadot Wonder Woman? Is she not? Is there another movie? Does anybody care anymore? All that time, they could have just made another Lord of the Rings game, even though they didn't want to. So I guess
they could have made the game that they wanted to make.
You know what? If you give me a game, whatever Legacy, the codename Legacy ended up being, if it used the Nemesis system and it had some cool new characters and maybe an interesting world, I think the Nemesis system alone would have carried that to big, like, this is a great, interesting new IP.
Yeah, and it would literally be out. We would have already played it for a few years ago.
And WB were like, no, we're doubling down on our amazing IP, like Harry Potter.
You want to say the profitability? Stop cancelling games. Get them out.
Well, we saw what the tax write-offs were. They got rid of that Wile E. Coyote movie that was finished, and they just wrote it off as a tax write-off. So yeah, it goes into a little bit more depth in the interview about saying Monolith also had back and forth about using their internal engine or switching to Unreal, and then they decide to stick with their in-house engine to make Wonder Woman. But then in hindsight realised that a lot of the programmers and engineers who knew how to use the engine had left the company as part of the exodus.
When it comes to an engine, that's one where if you have your own in-house bespoke engine and you know it's optimised for what you want to do, I think that is the ideal situation for a game.
Yeah.
However, something like Unreal it's easier to use. There's millions of resources out there. Everyone in the industry knows how to use it. Mm-hmm. But it can lead to some things feeling a bit samey. So it's which is the best strategy. But if everyone who's the studio has left, who knows how to use your bespoke engine, you're probably better off switching.
Yeah, you might. Then you can at least recruit people externally who are familiar with Unreal, as opposed to come in and work with our older one that's a bit clunky. They then go on to say that around late 2023, early 24, so just last year, Wonder Woman was completely rebooted. The game changed directors because they left. The Nemesis system was removed, and the game was pivoted to a more traditional action-adventure game similar to a God of War, which could be cool, but apparently the Nemesis system was styled on almost like a flip reverse of the Nemesis system, where instead of making enemies, you befriended people, because Wonder Woman's not going to kill people left, right, and centre and then make enemies out of them.
It makes sense.
It does, but also how does that fit in a gameplay? So I can see how maybe it didn't quite fit. But then essentially, yeah, God of War style game would have worked cool. It's in that mythology world. And then eventually, Richie, apparently the Monolith, the devs had no knowledge beforehand of the closure, and they learned about it on Tuesday, shortly before the rest of the world did. So
that is just terrible. Put the game shit aside. You're talking about people's livelihoods. To not give anyone to have people coming in on a Monday going, everything's great, we're excited about this project, we're finally making some headway. By Tuesday, you're packing your desk.
Yep. I'd like to think all of them just go and work for Cliffhanger Games instead. The rest of the old team over there must be like, there's some talent we can just pick up and recruit easily on like severance packages or something here.
It happens too often in the gaming industry where senior management don't fully understand the trends in the industry. They're chasing trends rather than establishing them.
Yeah.
And then it's hard-working developers, the people who make the games that we love, are the ones who pay the price.
Yeah. And speaking of paying the price, obviously, is it Haddad, I think, was the WB Games head of games or something, who left recently. He was ousted by the board of directors. He wasn't in charge when all this shit happened. He came in just near the end. So I know he gets a lot of shit for a lot of the decisions, but similar to PlayStation with Jim Ryan, a lot of this stuff was in play, all the live service action, well before his stewardship. He's just there to kind of help sink the boat a little bit more. So that's Monolith in a nutshell. RIP. They got totally screwed over and seemingly did nothing wrong themselves, and yet now they are scattered to the wind.
They did what WB asked them to do.
Yeah, and they've paid the price. And meanwhile, in a sad, twisted way, in a weird way, Rocksteady just get to make another one. So Rocksteady apparently just back on another Batman game, which we reported a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, because they've set out the priorities, WB, so that they say they're focused on the IP, but by DC, they basically mean Batman. Or Batman only.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Harry Potter was a Game of Thrones, so it was the fourth one.
Mortal Kombat was the fourth one.
Mortal Kombat, yeah, Mortal Kombat.
Even though they have Lord of the Rings, I thought Lord of the Rings would definitely be part of that. But I guess
Do they have?
Yeah, they've got it's split between when the Embracer Group took over. They brokered a deal where WB got creative rights with the film stuff, and Embracer has like the books and other creative entities like anime and stuff like that. It's like very convoluted, but again, I'm sure Embracer are happy to work with WB, which is why I was hoping for another Middle-earth game. But we won't go into that here because it's a whole different day's worth of topics. Yeah. And then we know WB Montreal, apparently they are, after the failure of Gotham Knights.
Gotham Knights, yeah. That's one I couldn't remember.
Yeah. So they did Arkham Origins in 2013 and then took them 10 years almost to get Gotham Knights out, 8 years. That was initially intended to be live service. Then they reversed course and changed it because WB didn't want to have it live service. So then they got rid of all the post-launch plans, probably because it was too close to Suicide Squad.
But it still played and felt like a live service.
Yeah, exactly. Then they were going to do a Gotham Knights 1.5, which is going to be like a smaller game similar to Miles Morales, like in scope. That wasn't approved. Then they looked at pitching a Flash game, which we spoke about a few weeks ago on the podcast. Go listen to that if you want that in detail. So again, seemingly back to your point there about when they say DC, they just mean Batman.
Yeah.
That's it.
The thing is, if the DCEU had been a success,
it could have been different.
Then maybe a Flash movie might be more interesting.
We said it before.
But
a Green Arrow game.
Green Arrow could be good, but they're never going to greenlight it in the current. They'd have to have a huge success with a Green Arrow movie.
Yeah.
And it feels like WB would be very reluctant to actually greenlight that movie.
Yeah.
Yes, you can do Green Arrow, but as part of a Batman movie.
Yeah, like a spin-off. I mean, that should be a great way to introduce them.
Yeah.
Like, let you play as some... But again, that's what Suicide Squad should have been. You should have been able to play as the Justice League, not kill them. You get to play as your heroes rather than killing them.
I don't mind the idea of you playing as the villains in the game. The problem is, it was just a live service game. It felt like exactly like you'd expect a live service game to play. There was nothing interesting about the game.
I don't think playing as the villains is bad once you've been able to play as the heroes first.
Yeah,
because it's like you're not going to want to play a Joker game before a Batman game, right?
Yeah, but loads of Batman games already exist. I don't necessarily mind if it's a narrative game. You're going like, you know what, this is going to be. It's going to be a Harley Quinn game. Yeah. You are going to play it, or a Deadshot game. So you're going to play as this character.
Yeah.
Their story. But because it's live service, you can be Killer Croc, you can be this dude, you can be that dude, Captain Boomerang, whatever. And it's like everyone's going, but why would I want to?
Oh, yeah. Deadshot could be a cool VR game.
And
just a really quick
mechanically, it looked pretty much exactly like Marvel's Avengers, which was also a flop.
Yeah.
But with a weaker IP, it was destined to fail. There's nothing about that game that looked redeeming.
Yeah, I hope they have a good pitch, WE Montreal, because after Gotham Knights' failure, apparently internal execs wanted Montreal to become a support studio, and many of the devs were put on to work on Wonder Woman. No surprise, because they just sacked they'd lost half the team, sorry. So then they were like, shit, Wonder Woman, we just put a trailer out, we've done no work on it. Then they're now currently pitching a Game of Thrones title, which again could be great, but as the boat sailed with Game of Thrones, I could see an announcement in another year's time. Like this time next year, we could be sat here going, Game of Thrones didn't quite take off. The IP's kind of just left dizzying around. House of Dragons finished now, and there's just no real hype for it.
George R. R. Martin is seemingly doing everything he can to not finish the last book.
Yeah. And then finally, as we wrap up, WB Studios, Rocksteady's working on another Batman game. TT Games, which I think we sometimes forget WB own, which is the folks who make all the amazing Lego games. Apparently their next release hasn't been officially confirmed, but there are rumours that there's a new Lego Harry Potter game which is going to adapt the whole franchise in the same vein they did with the Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga, which I think is a good move. It's a safe bet. The Skywalker Saga did really well. Move. It's almost like consolidating 2 decades worth of Harry Potter Lego games into a more refined next-gen version.
The problem is you're adapting 7 books or 8 films worth of content into a game, which is probably going to be only 20 hours long.
Yeah. I think if they give it...
have to hack it apart.
If they give it
it's the same thing problem with the Star Wars one.
Yeah. If they give it the same love Hogwarts Legacy has, and you have the full castle and Hogsmeade and the Ministry of Magic explorable in Lego, like not talking little pocket levels, like the whole castle.
Yeah, you have the castle as your overworld, basically.
Yeah, that would sell numbers. That's not a problem. Again, the Lego games, they pair with an audience that there's always an appetite there for. They don't make as much money, but they're still like there's a need for them. As previously reported, Avalanche is also working on a director's cut of Hogwarts Legacy with new DLC that Rocksteady have already been helping out with. After the Suicide Squad wrapped up, I'd imagine they pivoted a bit of their team over there while they get the pre-production on whatever this Batman game is. That's going to be a good 8 years out on the way. And they're also in early development of Hogwarts Legacy 2, but that's, again, you're probably talking another 5 years before you see anything off the back of that. So the only one, I guess, is the first... what were they called? First Play games? Play One games? I forgot the name already. Sorry. The Multiversus studio.
Oh, we're gone.
They're gone.
Yeah.
So obviously they bought them. I think that was a case of WB bought them because they almost had a situation on their hands where Multiversus was successful at launch. WB went, ooh, we could get in on this, like the viral hype that was going around with like Super Shaggy Cyan and all that, and different characters. And the studio went, well, if you want to make this like a long game thing, you need to put a ring on it and buy us. And then they did, and then Multiversus collapsed in on itself after about 2 months through decisions, and that's just another write-off for WB. So they've gone. And then I think last one, Studio San Diego, I'm pretty sure they were just a support studio because I couldn't really find much about them online.
It's seemingly only NetherRealm that can be safe. Like, because Mortal Kombat will just keep coming. Like, they're fine.
Yeah, well, NetherRealm are in talks with James Gunn. There was an article going on this week that he's talking to Rocksteady and NetherRealm about how it'll tie in with the DC canon.
No. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Again, James Gunn has said it's going to be canon, but you don't need it to be.
Make Mortal Kombat its own thing. Don't shoehorn it into the DC.
No, not Mortal Kombat, sorry. Sorry. DC do the Injustice games as well. Injustice,
right, okay.
Yeah. They go back and forth between Mortal Kombat, Injustice,
you know what?
ping.
Stick with having the games its own separate canon. Otherwise, things get too messy, and that's the problem with the DCEU. It's one of the problems the MCU has now. There's too many verticals, things get messy.
It's
the TV shows are a problem for the MCU.
It takes too long.
Just focus, keep the movies and the games separate.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting, this article is from the 25th of February, so 6 days ago, and just near the bottom of the article, it's so sad when you read it. It already says and also there's a Wonder Woman game in development at Monolith that remains maybe a few years away. Yeah, it's little did you know, just 2 days from now, it's all sacked, knocked on the head. So yeah, but sad times, but I do think in hindsight, all things said and done, looking at the internals of Monolith in particular, it's not the biggest loss because they've already moved on to other things. The talent there, they
what
already
makes
saw
the studio great
Yeah.
exists.
They
so.
already knew the rot had set in higher up, and I just do think it's really unfair that all that happened because issues elsewhere that were out of their control basically shut them down. And then, unfortunately, the Nemesis system, Richie, seemingly is locked away under a WB patent until 2036, sorry. So we're looking at another decade plus before anyone can maybe even utilise it.
I kind of agree with Jason Schreier, though, with the Nemesis system. While it was a brilliant system, but I don't think any other AAA developers are looking at it and going, we need to do that. That is something that has to feature.
What,
it was a cool thing to have, but it's not. It wasn't the making of them games.
No, not at all. If you took the Nemesis system, then what IP would you apply it to think it'd get a really good kick out of it? I know I gave it some shit on this week's live stream. I didn't give it some shit. I used it as an example. I think Borderlands would be really great with a Nemesis system. Could you imagine bumping into just a randomer out in the wastelands and you kill them or injure them and then they come back like 2 hours later, like scarred, burnt, whatever it is, and they're stronger? Like,
yeah,
that could work pretty sick in Borderlands. Where would you put it?
You could do something like an Assassin's Creed, but you'd need to make the actually no, you couldn't, because if you assassinate someone, you can't realistically have them come back. No. I'm not sure.
Should we get everyone to let us know in the comments below?
Yeah.
If you were to implement the famed Nemesis system into one of your favourite franchises, what would it be and why? Let us know in the comments below. Because we do need to move on to some other stories of the week, Richie, because we have got a juicy week of news lined up. This one came out of absolutely nowhere for me. We got March's PlayStation Plus claimable games. And what a lineup. I know we usually give PlayStation Plus shit for having like average or okay or not quite for us, but it's decent to see there. Dragon Age the Veilguard is the big one this year, alongside some others which we'll get into, but I just wanted to get to this first. This is EA's, of course, next entry in the Dragon Age franchise that came out just last, October? Oh, Halloween, didn't it? It came out on Halloween.
Halloween, yeah, 31st of October.
So I've seen the price plummeting online. I saw it was on Amazon this past week for like 26, 27 quid and thought, if I wasn't playing anything, if I'd played Dragon Age before, I could be tempted for like 25, 6 quid. For those who don't know, Dragon Age the Veilguard, yeah, it's the newest entry in the series. Unite the Veilguard and defy the gods in an immersive single-player RPG where you become the leader for others to believe in. When a pair of corrupt ancient gods break free from centuries of darkness, the vibrant lands of Thedas need someone they can rely on. Rise as Rook, Dragon Age's newest hero, be who you want to be and play how you want to play as you fight back and lead your team of several companions, each with their own rich story. Together, you will become the Veilguard. Richie, handed it over to you. You've played Dragon Age before. You had one eye on Veilguard at the back end of last year and moved on to other things after reviews. This is a big win. I know it didn't get plaudits, but it
wasn't
got
reviews.
Yeah.
It wasn't the reviews for me that made me pass on Veilguard. It's, for me,
too much purple.
Dragon Age, that too. The origins of Dragon Age is kind of almost like a spiritual successor to the early Baldur's Gate games. Mm-hmm. They were kind of tactical RPGs. Every subsequent game has made it more and more of an action game. I think every single game has lost a little bit of the magic. Inquisition was a great game, but I didn't love it. And Veilguard looked like the double down on them. It's even more action focused. Mm-hmm. So I was like, it just wasn't the game I wanted it to be. However, all that being said, that is more of a personal preference thing. I think this is actually a solid game. My girlfriend took the platinum and I watched her play it. This is a brilliant get for PlayStation Plus.
Absolutely.
I actually think this is the best month of PlayStation Plus on Dragon Age the Veilguard in a long time.
Yeah, you're talking October.
End
of October. End of October. It's essentially November. So November, December, January, February, 5 months, and this is now included.
Guessing it kind of sold well.
No, I think EA have gone full Ubisoft with this entry. Like, it got big price slashes even just over Christmas, I think it got a couple of price cuts. And then in the new year, we got some January sale stuff, which you normally see, but not as drastic as that. Ubisoft are the only ones who traditionally do it, don't they? You wait 2 months after launch and it's like half price. Dragon Age the Veilguard coming in big.
See, it is actually a really good action RPG.
What's it on Metacritic at the moment?
I'm not sure.
Again, I'm pretty sure, aside from the woke backlash that it got, even though it doesn't really do anything that problematic. Exactly.
Metascore is 82. User score is 3.9.
That's the woke stuff, I think, getting in when it's in user
Probably.
score.
First one. Developers care more about woke elements.
Great, you can pick multiple genders. You're also making yourself a green lizard person. Is that really a concern to you? But anyway, so Metacritic, good. Dragon Age Veilguard, good. And PlayStation Plus kicking off March with a solid get. I'd be really annoyed if I'd bought this game. But then that's the risk you take with subscription services. Moving on to other ones, we've also got Sonic Colors Ultimate coming, which is the kind of the repackage that they did 2 years ago. Dr. Evil Eggman, or Dr. Robotnik as we all know him, has built an interstellar amusement park, but he's powering it with a captured alien race called Wisps. Use Sonic speed to free the Wisps and gain their amazing powers as you explore 6 unique worlds filled with hurdles to overcome. Now with stunning upscale visuals, additional features, a new game mode and enhanced gameplay, it's the ultimate Sonic Colors experience. So that was there. And then the final one is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Cowabunga Collection, which is the 13 classic Konami TMNT games assembled into one incredible package that came out. Was it last year? I'm pretty sure that was last year as well. Retro nostalgia trips come in a range of new quality high-life features, including online play, local couch co-op, ability to save anytime and rewind, button remapping, and unique art sketches and historic TMNT media content included, and more. All these 3 games will be able to claim from March the 4th through till March 31st on your PlayStation Premium and Extra tiers. Cha-ching. Solid month, PS Plus.
Yeah, absolutely rock solid.
So then I guess if you've got both, you've got Avowed on one side and then Dragon Age on the other. So what a month for RPGs. Go fill your boots. I actually just add a little side caveat to that with while we're talking about the PlayStation Plus news. Our friends over at Cloud Dosage did put out an article this week highlighting that Sony have stealthily, secretly added a whopping 371 games to the cloud feature on PlayStation.
Oh,
so you're
cool.
talking massive titles like Helldivers 2, Warhammer Space Marine, like a lot of new releases as well. Sea of Thieves, Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza. They're straight into the streaming service. Not via the portal. I should put that little asterisk in there. This is just purely through your console still. Remember, the portal still is in beta for the streaming. So I think it's only just a matter of time. But as far as that, it's a big list of games now. It just shows that they're not kind of like shying away from cloud gaming. They are constantly adding to that. But yeah, adding a full 370 odd in one bulk go means there was clearly just a switch that needed flicking behind the scenes. Servers are live.
So I wonder why they decided to do so many in one go rather than just slowly add them. Maybe it is just a case of, right, it's been enough time, let's do another launch. What games have we got?
Yeah. Decent list, though.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if there's actually very few that aren't on there now. Just more reason to get in the clouds. Moving on, though, to some more exciting gaming news, Richie. We had 2 big releases this past week, which have both done really, really well. So let's have a little look at these. We'll start with Monster Hunter Wilds, the follow-up to the last big title. Doing really, really well. Also, it's the arguably one of the biggest games that's probably going to release this year. Monster Hunter Wilds, currently sitting with a Metacritic score of 90. Was released on February 28th, so just a couple of days ago. 90's pretty damn good, Richie. I know Monster Hunter's famed the world over already, especially in Japan and that side of the world. Let's pull from a few of the reviews, if I can find one that I actually recognise there. VGC, give it 100, 10 out of 10. Monster Hunter Wilds is confident, bold, and one of the best Monster Hunter games ever, thanks to its ability to stand on the giant shoulders of Monster Hunter Wilds, the previous title, and improve on it in virtually every single way. Let's get another one. One from Dual Shockers. They also gave it a 10 out of 10. After 100 hours of gameplay and reaching Hunter rank 110, I can confidently say that Monster Hunter Wilds is a better game than World and Rise, which was the Nintendo Switch exclusive temporarily. Largely focuses on streamlining and making the overall experience more accessible without removing any core principles that veterans have come to know and love. Also another high bit of praise. The Guardian gives it a 10 out of 10, 100 as well. You could pick up Wilds as a newcomer, have a tremendous time playing through the story. You could stop there and it would still be worth the price of admission. But I'll be playing it for a long time yet. So Monster
one
Hunter
day I'm
World,
gonna have to give him. I'm gonna have to give one a go.
That's exactly what
it
made me think.
They never. I never watch a trailer for Monster Hunter or read anything about it and go, "Oh, I need to play this." But then you see the reviews and like. It's like, is it one of them there? It's just because it's not a style of game I typically play.
It's not
that
too
I'm more
dissimilar to
closed off to
Pokemon,
it,
right? Is that why it gets like a bit like you're going out there and you're hunting giant animals? Although you're hunting them, I believe, for their resources to make like better weapons. And
it's
stuff.
that gameplay loop where you kind of it's built around. Any fans of Monster Hunter are going to crucify me in the comments on this, where you kind of just go, okay, I'll go to beat this monster so I can get some stuff so I can craft a better weapon so I can go defeat the next bigger monster. Mm-hmm. My point is the why of it. Why do that?
What's the goal?
Yeah, what's the goal? Is it just to level up, to get better gear? It's the looter shooter thing where it's the problem I have with games like Destiny, where it's like Destiny's fun.
Yeah.
But after a few hours, it just becomes that grind of looking for better gear all the time just so you can go fight enemies with higher health bars. Mm-hmm. I know there's more to it than that, but that doesn't do much for me. I like to level up throughout the story. Yeah. I don't know. I need to give one a go at some point. I don't know when.
You've got your little...
There's something here that I'm not seeing.
Yeah, you've got your little Pelico feline friends, little cat buddies you've got who have like clothing and sticks that you can get outfits and stuff for. There's just something to it. I'm reading like just a few more reviews. Like the Sixth Axis gave it a 9 out of 10, saying it's the best Monster Hunter game we've ever had. The best storyline, the best visuals, changing the combat that revolutionized the way the game plays. Again, I do just read it and think like, wow, it's doing something great. Like Capcom are on an absolute roll at the moment between Resident Evil and Monster Hunter. Like they're arguably like taking the place of since Ubisoft's fall. I'd say they're right up there. I know we've sometimes praised EA about saying their levels of consistency, but yeah, Push Square, 9 out of 10. Few games can match the satisfaction of Monster Hunter, and Monster Hunter Wilds might just be the most satisfying installment yet. Capcom has tuned the act of felling colossal foes, creating one of the most rewarding games of a generation in the process. While the overall package is held back by a stalling story campaign and questionable performances, especially on PC, Wilds is an outstanding action RPG at its core, and it's a worthy successor to the already almighty Monster Hunter World. So, yeah, it just seems like if you're a Monster Hunter fan, you are eating good right now. If you're not, this could be a great time to jump in. So, Capcom, smashing it out the park.
Sounds good.
Want to add?
No, because it's my ignorance of the game.
Yeah,
that's
same.
the problem here.
In another world, we could be talking about it for 20, 30 minutes about what we loved. Again, let us know in the comments below if you're a big Monster Hunter fan. What would me and Richie like about it? Knowing us for listening to us for 5 odd years, like what is it about Monster Hunters that you think would get its claws in us?
This is the point where I wish we were doing this full time, so I could spend a few hours during my work day when we're preparing the podcast.
Yeah.
Playing the game, because it's a series that I'm just ignorant of, and I've never played a single one for a single minute.
Yeah,
but clearly there's something there, and it feels like it's with each iteration of Monster Hunter, my brain's going, you need to play one of these at some point, but then my brain's also going, but you've got all these other games that you know you'll enjoy.
Yeah, it's
I don't know when. It's more of like it's that time problem. As big when you getting old, I don't know when I have time to play it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like even one of the reviewers there said, right, they put 100 hours in the game. Like that's before launch.
That's rookie numbers.
Like yeah, to be a games reviewer. IGN gave it an 8 out of 10. Eurogamer gave it an 8 out of 10. All high praise. Again, I think there's some sticking points going on about performance, but
you're not putting 100 hours into a game because you're a reviewer. You're putting 100 hours into a game because you're enjoying the game.
Yeah.
You might have put 10 hours in it because you're a viewer, but I'd say at least 50 of them hours is because you just want to play.
Yeah. Actually, that might have been Like a Dragon reviews. But moving on to our second one. Heads up. Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii came out, which these naming conventions are just getting out of control. Also launched this past week. 2 great reviews as well. They're currently up there. Sitting at, if I can get to the top of my page, 79 overall reviews, so still well in the green, up there. VGC 24/7 gave it a 10 out of 10, saying RGG, which is the studio, embraced visual customization in a more in-depth manner than ever seen before, not just with your ship, but putting together custom outfits. There's a mix and match rather than rigidly set. You spend most of your time getting up to subtly piratey stories and in goals to recruit your squad. It doesn't really go into the game there. It's more talking about some of the new features. I did mention, just say IGN gave it an 8 out of 10. Just to get some more reviews in, trying to find them on this page. Apologies. IGN gave it an 8 out of 10. Propelled by a breezy and often completely bananas treasure hunting tale, Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii is a delightful spin-off that seemingly shifts between street thuggery and skullduggery. Majima's Sea Dog stands as one of the most fun and flexible fighting styles I've enjoyed in the series to date, at least in its classic combo-based form, and I welcome the challenge, carefully balancing my new crew's lineup in order to survive the turbulent naval battles. While its overworld map feels a little bit padded out with recycled island settings, Honolulu itself is jammed and unpredictable, filled with sub-stories and overhauled activities that meant every moment of the onshore was full of surprises. Absolutely heaving with buried treasure and varied pleasures, Like a Dragon is a constantly captivating voyage that kept my timbers shivering, whether on land or at sea. Euro also gave it an 8 out of 10, saying a raucous, absurd spin-off that manages to still feel like a first-rate Yakuza game despite the left-field setting and delightfully unhinged plot. What are they? Is it similar to Monster Hunter? What are these games? There must be about 50 Yakuza Like a Dragon games at this stage, with all various genres covered, all spin-offs, and now we have a spiritual successor to Assassin's Creed Black Flag that's way better than Skull and Bones.
But it's way a bit more slapstick.
And it's a spin-off of a Mafia Japanese game that's already had 10 titles put out. In the turnaround, we should say, I'm pretty sure we're expecting another 1 or 2 Yakuza games by the end of the year.
Yeah, probably. You can almost see the pitch meetings going, we want to make another Like a Dragon game. Okay, yeah, what's this thing? So, he's a pirate. It's like, oh, in Hawaii.
Yeah, that's it's very much that South Park episode of just the manatees that just go and collect the balls of like, right, we're going to make another Yakuza game because the studio is available. What are we doing? And they just go down and pull something and go, it's space. Go get another ball. And it's like, and there's now demons. It's like, okay.
Demon space.
Yeah, Like a Dragon, Yakuza in demon space. And it's like, that would work. And he's now got an eye patch that has a laser targeter focus on it. And he has a lightsaber sword, amongst other things. But yeah, shout out to RGG because, the way they reutilize the assets.
They've done.
A lot of studios get criticised for it. But in game development, if they're putting out quality games still, you can't really...
The games are oddly distinct as well, though. That's what I think. That's where they're able to like bring out a game, at least one game a year.
Yeah.
Because they still somehow might find a way to make the games distinct. So if you are a big fan of the Like a Dragon series, every year you get a new game, plays similar to the previous ones, but feels like a distinct experience.
Absolutely.
And they don't take themselves too seriously.
I mean, when it's a pirate in Hawaii, can it ever be too serious?
Yeah.
Moving on, though, to some actual game news that we've got, wrapping up with the game announcements. Next story of the week is Fable, the reboot, has been delayed into 2026. This is from the official Xbox podcast. Craig Duncan has announced that Microsoft's Fable reboot has been delayed. And I quote, "We previously announced the date was 2025. We're actually going to give Fable more time and it's going to ship in 2026 now. While I know that it's not maybe news people want to hear, we want to assure people that it's definitely worth the wait." It then goes on to say, what we're bringing to Fable as a franchise, just think of the visuals of what you expect Playground Games, which is Forza, plus amazing gameplay, British humour, Playground's version of Albion, so inspired is by what's gone before with the franchise, but their take, and quite frankly, the most beautifully realised version of Albion you'll ever see. Really excited about the plans and really excited about the future. I want the community to understand that we do these things for the best of the games and the teams, and ultimately that results in the best games or the best game for the community. So, Fable, delayed, but I think in our podcast notes, Richie, it's almost like a hit that I think Microsoft and I think us as gamers are willing to take, because when you look at the Xbox lineup list for this year, we've just got Avowed, we've got South of Midnight in a few weeks, we've got Doom the Dark Ages in a few more weeks after that. They've inevitably got Call of Duty stacked at the back end of the year. We've got Outer Worlds 2 also coming this year, and potentially Clockwork Revolution in and amongst that. Not even including if we're talking Game Pass, the second party deals that they brokered for like Ark Survival and other things. I think with Xbox wanting to have like a big game every quarter, I think 2025 has already kind of laid out pretty well on their roadmap, and I think trying to sandwich a Fable in there, it's almost like unnecessary, which seems weird to say, but I think as an older gamer, if they're saying it needs more time or they want to give it more time to make it the best Fable ever,
take
like more power to you.
It feels like we have turned the corner with Xbox, where before for a few years we're like, you keep talking about games, but when are they coming? Mm-hmm. Now we're starting to see them coming. Was it Redfall? That just that
was during the
it
felt
that was a bit of a
that was a
false
moment.
Start,
mm-hmm.
a bit of a low moment, a bit of a false start. But the games are starting to come now. Avowed, we're both playing it.
Yeah,
South of
I
Midnight,
played
we've both
Indiana
got our
Jones
eye
just
on
before
it.
Christmas as well.
Yeah,
so I've had my two quarters back to back, and I've been playing on Xbox.
Yeah, so Doom the Dark Ages looks incredible. Call of Duty is just Call of Duty. You don't really need to worry about that.
Yeah, I played Call of Duty as well before.
Tony Hawk's has been announced.
Yeah, that was on last week's show you talked about, didn't you?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think...
Actually, when's the timer for that, actually? Because there was a countdown timer.
4th of March, I think, was the date for the countdown timer. But they don't know if that's a release date or it's just announcement.
Yeah, it'll be an announcement.
Yeah.
Stealth 4th of March. So they've got Tony Hawk's on the way. That's Activision. That's now Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Like, where would you
Xbox
put it?
they're in a good position.
If it was like targeted for like the back end of the year, why eat into anything else if you could just like maybe wait it and what I could see Fable doing now is we'll see Fable at the Developer Direct next January, and it'll be out by like maybe March, April. So the Avowed South of Midnight slot we've got this year, that will be Fable next year.
Yeah, and I think the issue Xbox have now is not the quantity of games from the first parties, it's nailing the quality.
Yeah.
Which is why they're delaying it, so do it.
Absolutely agree. And Fable's another one of them franchise that I've never played before, so whereas I'm dipping my toes in and I'm like seeing I know Avowed's not a full sequel to anything, but you know what I mean? Like I'm starting to dip my toes in. I think with Fable, that's going to be my opportunity to check out that world for the first time.
To jump into that franchise. It's a nice jumping on point.
Yeah, absolutely. So take your time, Playground Games. You've no doubt got a Forza announcement probably somewhere in the pipeline as well, so we'll get to it.
It's coming on the 29th of April to PlayStation.
And if you're not playing any of the Xbox games this year, that's fine, because you could go and play them over on PlayStation instead. As Richie alluded to there, Forza Horizon 5, it's finally got its release date on PlayStation platform. April 29th, it's coming. No physical release, however, they have confirmed that over on Twitter, which means you're not going to go out and buy an Xbox game on a disc, which is kind of a shame, because I feel like if I was going to buy Forza, I kind of would, like, just for the strangeness to have an Xbox title sitting on my shelf, like a storied franchise like Forza.
Would you, if you were Xbox and you were making the game for PlayStation, would you make the boxes green?
I don't think you'd be allowed.
I would. I'd just do it.
I mean, you could personally do it at home. You could get an Xbox One X disc box, from Amazon and switch it around, but PlayStation definitely wouldn't allow it. In terms of the release, though, Richie, 29th of April, not too far away. And I think the biggest element to add to this story is pre-order numbers are topping the charts all over the globe. Looking at this currently, it sits... this is the PlayStation pre-order charts, by the way. It currently sits in, because bear in mind, there's also multiple editions. There's the standard edition for $60, premium edition for $100, and a deluxe edition in the middle for $80. Don't know what they come with, DLC, different cars, different tracks, whatever that may be. Currently in the USA, pre-orders for Forza on PlayStation are at position 3, 4, and 13. In Canada, it is number 1, 2, and 9. In the UK, it's number 1, 3, and 8. Germany 1, 2, 7, France 1, 2, 7, Italy 1, 2, 15, Spain 1, 2, 8, Portugal 1, 2, 8, Mexico 1, 2, 8, Brazil 1, 2, 4. So essentially, for the most part, there is one version of Forza Horizon 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 countries have it currently at number 1 in the pre-order slot for PlayStation. That is
many
an
of these
Xbox
countries have it as number 2 as well.
As number 2 as well, yeah. So it's just going to show you that the gamble to put Xbox IP over on other platforms, it's going to pay off dividends. Like, this is a full price get, like $60 for a game that's 4-year-old now.
Interestingly, I've just had a look through. Apart from Portugal, Mexico, and Brazil, every single one of them countries you just listed have the premium edition as the highest.
Wow. That's either diehard Xbox fans switching platform or diehard racing fans.
They're going to make a lot of money.
Yes. And
for a game that's been out several years.
More praise to them. I think we said before when the leaks were happening, in the absence of a new Gran Turismo game and no Need for Speed title coming close to what Need for Speed title should be, Forza ticks that box, doesn't it? And I think the PlayStation audience are almost like clambering for an arcade racer. And Forza's Game of the Year winning. IGN gave it Game of the Year. Best in class for a few years back. So excited to see what happens.
For a game that came out in 2021, it's not doing bad.
Not at all, not at all. Again, like that. This is what Xbox has always said, haven't they, all along? It's like when games have kind of reached their saturation point, and because of Game Pass, no one out there is really buying Forza Horizon 5 like brand new box sealed. So
you either have it or you don't want it.
But if there's an audience over on PlayStation willing to spend seemingly $99 on a premium edition, that's free money sitting right there. So yeah, Forza Horizon 5 coming April 29th, just in time for your Easter break. Also, just in time, almost, hopefully, we got the Gex Trilogy, Richie, which I'm a massive fan of. That will be sneaking onto platforms this summer from Limited Run Games. Still didn't get a full release date, which I'm annoyed at, if you're going to say this summer. But yeah, that is Gex. It's been rumoured, but Gex Enter the Gecko and Deep Cover Gecko are also coming. I can't remember who owns these now. It's Embracer, right?
I'm not sure.
Because they went with... It was originally published by Square. I feel like it's one of the ones Embracer took off Square Enix. Crystal Dynamics.
It's Crystal. Limited Run Games is the publisher.
Yeah, Crystal Dynamics. That's who Embracer picked up. But yeah, if you've not played the Gex games before, this is essentially from the era of Spyro, Crash, and Croc, and Mario 64 and the like. It's a how do you say it? A human-style gecko. Anthropomorph. Yeah, everyone knows what word I'm trying to say. Anthropomorphic. I'm going to try and get the word. Anthropomorph. I know what it is. That's even hard to say. Anthropomorphic. It looks
anthropomorphic.
like. Animals' behaviour of humans. That's what it means. So it's a gecko that's basically acting like a human. It's also a very James Bond parody. The different games. The first one is Gex, typical like platformer, jumps through multiple media dimensions. That's the kind of thing with Gex, as he goes in multiple old classic TV shows. He trash talks HBO. Gives lots of like cheesy Bond references. There's a sexy girl in there. Makes some of things like Baywatch and stuff, X-Files, like all like 90s TV shows. Wisecracking jokes is about 2,000 jokes and stuff aside throughout the whole trilogy of games. And it's just puzzle platform at its finest. I had a soft spot for Gex back in the day, probably to do with Alicia Silverstone being on the front cover of PlayStation magazine in like a leather outfit as well. Probably had something to do with it, but Gex Trilogy launches later this year, and I wanted to throw that out there. Speaking of, caught me totally off guard this week, actually, Richie. I don't know if you've seen it. They announced Terminator 2D No Fate coming this September 5th to multiple platforms. which at first I was like, oh, what is this? What is this? Terminator 2D. And then I saw the trailer and I was like, holy shit, this is like a successor to the Genesis Terminator game, which I had. And then we had Terminator versus RoboCop as well, which was another entry. And this game just looks absolutely unhinged. If you've liked any of the Metal Slug games or Metroidvania style games, you have to go watch this trailer because they do the music in like a 16-bit art style as well. But yeah, if you've got any kind of passion for 2D action side scrollers, this is essentially it. They've took all their kind of adrenaline-fueled arcade gameplay, some stunning pixel art, and they're basically doing a retelling of the Terminator movies, 1 and 2, it looks like. It's their first licensed game, but it looks like they're nailing it. Like, even, I don't know if you've seen the trailer already yet, the if you die, the continue is the thumb sticking out of the lava, and you can either go yes to continue with a thumbs up, or you can go down. And yeah, you get to fight Skynet. It looks like you get to play as Sarah Connor, different versions of the Terminator. You get to do the motorbike chase down the sewage water runoff. You get to play as T-1000. It looks ultimate. Like, if this was like a Genesis classic being remade, I'd be like, yeah, okay, fine, do what you need to. But yeah, just something about this one. It's got everybody hyped for it. I don't know, where do you sit with the Terminator movies? Have you seen them all? Some of them, maybe?
I think the first two are amazing, then have no interest after that.
I think pretty much. I think you can stick at that, which is what this game is an ode to. So yeah, Terminator 2D, No Fate, coming out later on this year. And then another little game I wanted to touch on as we round out the show, just to get some quick game announcements in here. Blades of Fire. I wanted to get this one in because this is from the studio that made Metroid Dread for the Nintendo Switch, which was praised a couple of years back when it released on Switch, while everyone, of course, still waits for Metroid Prime 4. This is set for release in May. This is called Blades of Fire, and it's from Mercury Steam, which is the studio behind it. It looks like they're not making a follow-up to Metroid Dread, as well as it was reviewed and revered back on release. Blades of Fire, players find scrolls. They can create new weapons, suit their base style and weight, length, durability, penetration, edge quality. Bit of a random blurb there. But what do you reckon? Just the visuals, Richie. It's not 2D. It's definitely more fantasy. But I'm thinking these guys made an absolute knocking out the park Metroid Dread game for Nintendo, and then they've clearly took that success and they're making seemingly a third-person action adventure game.
It seems an odd place to put it. It feels like this should have been that as showcased as some description. I just watched it. It looks fine, and it's one where I feel like I need to see more.
Looks a bit like
what is the game. Yeah, it's more third person from what I can tell than Avowed.
Oh yeah,
I know you can play. I know you are playing Avowed in third person, but this looks intentionally third person. So yeah, this one I think to keep an eye on, see how they do.
Yeah, it was part of the IGN little indie game fest thing that they announced, so it was kind of like buried this week in news. But I thought because of how well Metroid Dread was, like Metroid Dread was up for a couple of Game of the Year nominations, if I recall, and it's in a couple of people's like must play Nintendo Switch games. So I wanted to give the studio some kind of highlight there because they clearly know what they're doing. So yeah,
I must admit it's one I missed in the news this week. It looks like looks interesting.
Yeah, published by 505 Games, and they do quite well at like picking out the good juicy ones. Final quick news stories. PS VR 2 has got an official price cut. PlayStation, Sony have announced that it's going to be dropped down to £399 here in the UK. Whatever that equates to your local currency, $399, €450 probably. Starting in March. I think this is just the beginning of the end, which we knew about, Richie.
Still way too expensive.
Yeah, you've got to buy your PS5, and then on top of that, £400 for the VR. It's closer to the original VR. I'll give it that. I think I picked up my original VR for maybe $299 in a sale at Curry's at some point.
I feel like they need to get this closer down to like the 200 mark in order to make it viable.
There's still no games, right?
Well, that's the problem as well. That's why. Why would you spend £400 on a peripheral to play about 3 games?
Yeah, you've got Horizon. That's all they've really put out, right?
Yeah, and then if you wanted to get into VR, if you're looking to get into VR, you're probably still talking close to £1,000 to get into VR if you go the PlayStation route. It's I don't think it's viable, and as cool as VR is, it needs the software to sustain it, and it's just not there.
Yeah. PlayStation haven't said any of their first-party studios, aside from Guerrilla. Remember, Guerrilla didn't make Horizon VR. It was Fire Sprite, right? Firewalk, the one that's still functioning, with the support of Guerrilla Games. So actually, none of PlayStation's first-party studios have seemingly worked on a VR title, which they didn't. That's what happened with the Vita, and then now seemingly that's what's happening with VR 2. And a lot of the games that are great on PSVR 1 aren't forwards compatible with VR 2. Some of them have had like updates and re-releases and repackages, but you've got all the best hardware now for the platform, and seemingly they've given up on the software. And I think this is where PlayStation behind the scenes have pivoted towards handheld portable. And I think the success of the Portal has really made them think, well, actually, Microsoft looking at handheld, the Switch has done really well, Steam Deck, the Portal's doing numbers. It can't be no coincidence that we've seen cloud gaming come to the Portal, a new list of games come to cloud gaming. Like, internally, their focus has got to have shifted totally from VR now away. No announcements. Yeah. There's a discount in the hardware, which means it isn't selling well traditionally. Because if it was, they'd keep the price up. Remember, they put the price of the PS5 up last year. So the VR's going the other way. Yeah, I think it's...
Yeah, I think they'll shift some more units because of the price drop. Cost well, but it's not. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near enough for them to change to course correct on it.
Yeah, I agree. Just a couple of quick ones. Balatro seemingly won its lawsuit. We spoke about it probably about 6 weeks back now on the show. That Balatro was classed as an 18 upwards game, PEGI 18 classification, even though it's not actually poker because you're not playing with any real money. And it's been recategorized as suitable for players aged 12 and up. Richie, I think we covered it that the developer Locto Thunk was he called? I think he had like a Star Wars sounding droid name. Local Thunk or Locto Thunk. He said it was perceived wrong. He said certain countries have mistaken it, believing that the game contains predominant gambling imagery. It's a deck of cards in the game. His man successfully changed it now. So shout him a little win for one solo indie developer.
Yeah,
so good.
I think it's an important win because while I think gambling in games is a thing with loot boxes and stuff and needs to be policed as gambling, games like this shouldn't get dragged into it when it's not. Yeah,
it basically teaches you how to play game of poker.
It's setting the precedent, whereas games like this are on this side of the line, which are not gambling. However, if you pay for a random chance in a game out with using real world money or the option for real world money, looking at you, Pokemon trading card game, gambling.
Yeah, which is right. And again, that was the ironic thing. He pushed back and saying like all these other games like EA Sports FC and such that have loot box cards in them, that's more gambling than Balatro is, and yet they're getting a 12 rating. Or a PG rating in some cases. So, yeah. But, you know what? Balatro sold over 5 million copies. I'm sure he's fine, all things said and done. Then the final silly one, which we always like to add at the end of our show, Richie. I don't know if you saw this, but in amongst all the Pokemon news, Honda also revealed a life-size Pokemon motorbike. We often cover things like socks for your controllers and jumpers for... and Xbox fridges and toasters and all this other thing. But, Japan going further with this one.
So the weird thing is, this is one of the legendary Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet was a motorbike, based on a motorbike.
That's how you travelled around the open world, right?
It's how you travel around, yeah. So this would have made sense when them games came out.
Yep.
I don't know, it feels like a weird...
I mean, it's not functional because it's got spikes on the wheels and stuff, and I'm sure it's not designed maybe with balancing. It's one of those weird partnership deals where they're like, look, Honda, we're a Japanese company, Pokemon's Japanese, like, let's pair up for some kind of marketing viral thing. I'm sure it'll do some press tours around the countries, and it'll maybe be on show in a Pokemon shop.
If it's got spikes on the wheels then it's clearly not fully functional.
Not like spikes, like just rubber-looking spikes.
Yeah, but then what's the point if it's not fully functional? You've made a statue.
I mean, how much certification would it need to go through for road testing and stuff as well? Like, you could maybe drive it around the showroom.
Yeah.
maybe. Again, it's stupid to begin with. If you're going to go that granular with it, like the whole thing's going to fall apart.
I'm just trying to figure out what the point is, because it's clearly not meant to promote a game that's been out for like 2 years.
Let's just read the post here. Honda's sneak peek at the motorbike made in conjunction with the Pokemon Company. After the unveiling, they're going to tell us how much it'll cost come next month. So I don't know if it's going to go into production or just
it might be
special. Honda has, I mean, you could just swap out the wheels realistically. One for show, one for driving. Honda has realised an almost life-size reproduction of the shape of, is it Corradon? Corradidon?
Think so, yeah.
Yeah, in both weight and size down to its finest details. Honda will use its proprietary self-balancing technology to enable Honda Karadikon to walk on all four legs and self-stand on two wheels, which is unseen in the game. This balance technology was developed by applying self-balancing, cultivated Asimo human-robot research. Honda applied this technology to realise Karadidon's sprinting build. This isn't the first time Pokemon has transformed into a motorbike. Last year, Toyota took the reins of the Miraidon prototype, though it's unclear if the design was ever roadworthy. So it looks like they've done it before with the other one.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Here we go.
Fair enough.
Japan be crazy. And as always, we like to round out every show by looking back at this day in video game history. We're recording on March the 1st. We're finally into March, Richie. February was quick, wasn't it?
Yay, March.
January felt so long. The clocks go forward at the end of this month. We get some daylight back. But looking at the 1st of March, my brother's birthday, actually, shout out, happy birthday. What titles stand out for you, Richie, on this day in video game history?
Nothing.
Ghostwire Tokyo?
Oh, yeah, that's in there. Yeah, that's it, really. It's quite a quiet one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward a couple of days, seeing if there's anything stand out. Nothing on the 2nd. Let's go 3rd of March, which is my nana's birthday. Happy birthday, shout out as well. Busy week for me.
Busy, yeah, I was going to say, really busy.
Oh, there you go. My nana's
Battle
birthday.
for Middle-earth?
No, my nana's birthday, 8 years ago, the Nintendo Switch.
Nice.
There you go. Did you say Battle for Middle-earth?
Battle for Middle-earth 2 was in the second.
Oh, there's a good one. Oh, there you go. 10 years ago, Helldivers as well. On PS3, PS4, and PlayStation Vita. There you go. You got Helldivers, Nintendo Switch, and Battle for Middle-earth. What a selection of games on this day in video game history. But that does bring us to an end of this very show, and that cements us in video game history with episode number 81 of the GamerGuild Podcast, episode number 452 in total of our longest running video game podcasts in the world, almost, maybe, we'll never know. Thank you very much to everyone who's listened, tuned into this week's news. Don't forget to let us know in the comments below how you'd like to utilise the Nemesis system in your favourite game franchise of all time. Check out this week's live stream, like, subscribe, ring-a-ding-ding that bell and all that other stuff. And remember, if you're an audio freeloader, head over to YouTube and click join and support us from as little as 99p. The merch store is there. As I said, later on this week, on the 6th of March, there will be a 15% discount. But all things said and done, Richie, my name has been Chris.
And I have been Richie.
We've been the GamerGuild Podcast. And remember, folks, play whatever makes you happy. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.